Hasn't come through on my end. Welcome in, everybody, to the Everything Buckeye Nation show here. A Fan Chat production. No producer G in the building. No Corey Boyd in the building. So it's just me tonight, folks. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Laura BP, Gary Likens already. Appreciate you folks. A lot to get to tonight. We'll be here for about an hour or so. And we will be talking a lot of Ohio State football, some basketball, of course, now with Ohio State football pretty much in the rearview mirror. Talking a lot of Buckeye hoops tonight as well. And if we get to it, I've got a whole lot of information on a projected depth chart for the 2019 football season. So bear with us tonight. Appreciate you, Mike Dye and Dana, OHIO. No Corey Boyd tonight, so fill us in with the comments in the comments section. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, we appreciate you very much. Top news of the week. My biggest news of the week was our guy Terry McLaurin down at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. Did you hear about this, folks? Terry McLaurin was tearing it up, no pun intended, honestly, at the Senior Bowl this week. A fantastic week of practice. Scouts just drooling over the seemingly underwhelming wide receiver this year. I mean, Terry McLaurin had fantastic stats. 20 yards per catch, over 700 receiving yards, and I think it was 11 touchdowns on the year for Terry. They call him Touchdown Terry for a reason. He's always making big plays. Always down there on special teams, not just a wide receiver. The scouts are going to love him because he's such a great kid. And not only that, but he can play any position on the field, any wide receiver position you want, outside, inside, slot, special teams. He's an ace. Yeah, Drew Chrisman's a fantastic punter, but when you got a guy like Terry McLaurin not getting blocked on the edge and getting down there as a gunner and downing the ball inside the 5 as much as he did, boy, it was a fantastic season for Terry McLaurin. He's the lone Buckeye at the Senior Bowl, and he had a fantastic week of practice. Scouts were just raving about his performance. And he played really well in the Senior Bowl as well, the game itself. So they had 3 practices last week, and then the game on Saturday. Terry had 4 grabs for 53 yards. He also took a reverse for 20 yards. So 73 yards on 5 touches, and did have an incredible play. They ran the old flea flicker play for 25 yards, and that really got the people going. And Terry McLaurin just had a great game. Did drop a touchdown pass, a pass that was a little bit low, a little bit behind him, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt here. Terry with a great game, again, 73 yards on 5 touches. Really shot up his stock for the NFL draft, and I'm excited to see him and how he does now because of all the growth that he's made just over the past 5 years. He's such a great leader, of course, 5th-year senior in that wide receiver room with Paris Campbell and Johnny Dixon. And now he goes and puts on a show at the Senior Bowl. Stock is rising, and here in about, I don't know, a little over a month, we'll have the NFL Combine, and he's expecting to run a 4.35 in the 40, which will really, really shoot him up the draft boards. So we will see. We'll see how it goes for Terry. I'm excited for him. Job well done. Again, 5 touches, 73 yards. Pretty good stuff for Terry. So glad to see that for the 5th-year senior Buckeye. He's the type of guy who's going to be a mid-round pick, probably end up in the NFL for a long time as a starter. John Gruden said so. He was being coached by John Gruden and the Raiders staff, which is kind of interesting. They had the Raiders staff and the coach in the Senior Bowl there. And John Gruden said Terry McLaurin's going to be a mid-round pick, and he is going to be in the NFL as a starter for a long time. High praise from Coach Gruden. We'll see if maybe he takes a shot on Terry in the 2nd or 3rd round. We'll see where Terry goes. That remains to be seen, of course. Shout out our guy Sean here. Says, will Justin Fields live up to the hype? All right. There's a lot of talk about Justin Fields and if he'll get the hardship waiver and be eligible to play right away. And I'm here to tell you now, yes, he's going to live up to the hype. I've been so excited about Ryan Day and the fact that he's leading our football team this upcoming season. The players love him. I have it on good authority, and that good authority is my buddy that ran into Josh Allaby at Roosters over a playoff weekend a few weekends back, and he said, I love Coach Day. My buddy asked him, what do you think about Coach Meyer retiring? And all he said was, I love Coach Day. So I'm really excited to bring in this young offensive mind. He can build the offense, and everybody wants to have this Sean McVay type character running their team, running the offense, and that's fantastic. But Ryan Day has built a fantastic offense over the past 2 years. Justin Fields is really almost just a more athletic Dwayne Haskins, maybe not as much of a natural thrower of the ball, but this kid, if you haven't watched his highlight tape, I strongly encourage you to go back and do so. We've got his highlight. I mean, he's the number 2 quarterback recruit ever, and he's the highest recruit to ever commit to the Ohio State University. Think about that for a second. The highest rated recruit to ever choose the Ohio State University. Now, does that mean he's going to win the Heisman Trophy and bring us a national championship? Not necessarily. Recruiting rankings don't always lead to national championships, but who's been at the top of the recruiting for the last 5 years? Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. They seem to be doing pretty well, especially Alabama. I mean, they're number 1 in recruiting class, seems like, 8 years in a row, 9 years in a row? They've been doing pretty well for themselves. Clemson recruiting like crazy. Ohio State recruiting like crazy. All of these teams are at the top of the leaderboard at the end of the year. I mean, it was Ohio State was number 3, Bama was 2, Clemson was 1 at the end of this year. It's no secret. Sean said, but he couldn't even start at Georgia. Why is that? Our guy David Campbell says, because Fromm did great. Now, this is a very interesting topic here because I was really surprised when Justin Fields committed to Georgia. I was glad that he did because he was originally committed to Penn State, and I was like, this kid is the real deal, and I do not want to see him in Happy Valley. Decommits from Penn State, ends up committing to his home state, Georgia. He's from Georgia, commits to Georgia, and I thought that was very questionable. Now, I don't know why, or, maybe he just wanted to stay home, but Jake Fromm led the Bulldogs to the national championship game as a true freshman. I mean, think about how rare that is. Of course, Trevor Lawrence, it's becoming more of the norm nowadays. But Jake Fromm led the Bulldogs to the national championship game as a true freshman. You can't tell me they're going to go away from that for, an unproven kid. And Justin Fields was promised playing time, and he played in every single game this year except for the bowl game because it was kind of known at that time that he was going to be transferring. But I thought it was interesting, and these kids are so confident, I can compete with anybody. Well, you see how that worked out for Tate Martell. You come to a place and you think you're going to be the starter. Maybe you get time, maybe you get some serious playing time. They find a way to get you on the field, kind of like Ohio State did with Martell, kind of like Georgia did with Justin Fields. But it's never your offense. And he wasn't going to get that time. He wasn't, as long as Jake Fromm was there, he was their guy. And Georgia runs a pro-style offense anyway. Play action, run the ball, very pro-style offense. And that's Jake Fromm's style. He's the pocket passer. Not necessarily Justin Fields' game. He is a better passer than a runner, but he's an outstanding runner. Great athlete, 6'3", 225. You look at him on tape, and again, go watch his highlight tape, whether it's from his high school senior year, which is absolutely ridiculous, or his freshman year at Georgia. He's got plenty of highlights. I don't have the stats in front of me, but Fields had a fantastic freshman year. It's just kind of a taste of the future for Georgia, and they're going to stick with Fromm. And some Georgia staffers, I've read about this kind of all the way around, that Jake Fromm might want to stay for his senior year. His degree is very important to him. Now, after next season, when he's a guaranteed probably top 5, top 10 pick, maybe the multi-millions of dollars gets in his ear and says, come play in the NFL. I don't know. But that's why Justin Fields didn't play at Georgia, because Jake Fromm led him there. Jake Fromm's a better fit for their offense. He led him to the national title game as a true freshman. Fields isn't going to play over him. It's just that simple. So he wanted more playing time. He's good buddies with Dwayne Haskins. They have the same quarterback coach, Justin Fields, Dwayne Haskins, Deshaun Watson, maybe you heard of him, all have the same quarterback coach they train with in the offseason. A couple days before Urban Meyer announced he was stepping down, Quincy Avery, the quarterback's coach, said, if I had a son that played quarterback, I would have 100% wanted him to play for Ryan Day. You know Haskins is in his ear. If Quincy Avery thinks that, you know he's in Fields' ear. And earlier in the season, Fields tweeted at Haskins, said, I'm just trying to get like you, bro. Well, here you go. Here's your opportunity. My guy Clyde in the comments section here. I appreciate that. He says, what's going on, Jake? Clyde, your brother is ill. He is not in the building tonight. In fact, neither is producer G. I'm riding solo here at the studio. Got it set up here by myself, kind of with G's helpfulness over a Skype call. Got it all figured out, but your favorite producer's favorite producer, Gary Likens, is not in the building. He's running the show behind the scenes from home. Pretty impressive stuff we got going on here. And he's in the comment section as well. Sean says, will Fields break any Ohio State records? It's possible. He'll have 2 years to do so. It'd be very surprising. I mean, he's not going to break any career records because JT Barrett's pretty much got those on lock. Unless the kid comes in and starts as a true or redshirt freshman and stays for, all 4 or maybe even 5 years of his eligibility like JT did. I don't think his records are getting touched, but it's possible. Single season-wise, Dwayne Haskins just put together the best single season in not only Ohio State history, but Big Ten history. Breaking Drew Brees records. Drew Brees should be playing on Sunday, but he's not. Don't get me started on that. But I don't think that, he's got 2 years. And we'll see, maybe the Ryan Day offense, maybe Ryan Day wants to sling the ball around. The good news about Justin Fields is that if they do want to run some read option, now that Urban's gone, I'm not sure that's necessarily the case. But it's possible, we'll have to see with Ryan Day. I'm excited to see, the team's under new management, basically. What's Ryan Day going to do? Is he going to let the quarterback run? We saw Haskins running the ball 10 times a game in the last few games of the season, and it kind of worked. Haskins, as Urban said, dropped his balls, decided to man up, run the ball a little bit, and that's fantastic. But Fields is a better runner. You got to watch his tape. Lee Travis says, folks, if you have not seen QB1 on Netflix, go check it out. Tate is on season 1 and Justin on season 2. Gives you some perspective. That's fantastic, Lee. That's great stuff. Yeah, I've haven't seen season 2, saw a little bit of season 1. A lot of disdain towards our guy Tate Martell, Tathan, maybe I should say, since he's in Miami now, and we all learned his real name, which is kind of interesting, Tathan. But not a great look for Tathan in QB1. Kind of comes off as arrogant, and I kind of like that in a quarterback a little bit, but the whole Tathan Martell situation was a couple weeks ago, and talk that talk and then don't even compete. So he said, don't swing and miss to Justin Fields. Well, at least he swung, and Tathan did not. Mike Tackett, how much of the staff will Ryan Day retain? Is Greg Schiano the Patriots' next DC? And Kyle Barr adds he has already completed the staff, kept Larry Johnson only on defense, and kept nearly the entire offensive coaching staff. I have heard Greg Schiano rumored to be the next defensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. He and Belichick go back a long ways, and I'm sure Urban Meyer had something to say about that. They go back a long ways as well. The defensive coordinator for the Patriots, Brian Flores, is pretty much 99.9% going to be the next head coach of the Miami Dolphins, which is a story all in itself that I'm not sure I entirely understand why you would leave the Patriots to go coach a below-average team in the same division as the Patriots. Flores is going to get his floor wiped by Belichick every year. But that's neither here nor there. So there's going to be a defensive coordinator opening. Greg Schiano likely going to fill it. Natasha says, hey, Jake, where is your partner, Corey? Good question. He is at home with a migraine. I don't know if he's watching tonight or not. We gave him the night off, so he'll be back next week. But I appreciate you guys in the comments. He'll be happy to know Everybody was asking about him. But help me out in the comment section, folks. We'll get this, keep this show running. Laura BP says Justin shows good leadership in QB1 the show. And Sean G, as long as Fields is undefeated versus that team up north, we are good. He's got some serious shoes to fill, considering Urban Meyer and his quarterbacks are 7-0 in the last 7 years. And what have we lost 2 times in 15, 16, 17 years? Since the turn of the millennia, we lost in 2000, we lost in 2003, and we've lost in 2011, which is kind of an iffy year anyway because that was such a fluke year with Luke Fickell, and the program was kind of up in the air in between Tressel and Meyer. What a fantastic hire it was to bring Coach Meyer in. But 3 times in 18 years? Whew, that's some serious shoes to fill, and it was nice because this year all the pressure was on the Wolverines. And I was, for the first time in forever, I mean, for the last 7 years since Urban Meyer's here, it's been, boy, it sure would be nice if Ohio State could beat the Wolverines. They're expected to. Everybody expects them to. But can they do it? Because in the 90s, it was just brutal. We had the better team every single year. And what did we win? Twice? Tied once, which was the greatest win in Ohio State football history, according to Gordon Gee. Worst quote of a president in Ohio State history, and I'd have to imagine. But with all of the hype surrounding the Wolverines this year, this is the year they get them. They're favored in Columbus. If he doesn't beat them with this team, I'm not sure they ever will. Boy, wasn't that fantastic. The Buckeyes hang 62 on them. Are you kidding me? The #1 defense in the country. And we hang a 60-piece on them. Oh, baby. Ain't that something else? Dana says Miami has the Patriots number every year. In Miami, they do. That's a fact. Somehow Tom Brady can't get it done down south. Tim Goebel has the front 7 going to look next year. And David Campbell, gotta love that. LOL, hate that team up north. Well, Tim, we're riding on some Ohio State football talk. I was going to get to this later, but let's go ahead and look at the potential depth chart for next year. I've got all kinds of information down here. Defensive end, the defensive line is going to be pretty similar as to what we saw this past year. Of course, obviously no Nick Bosa, but we only had him for 2.5 games anyway. So your defensive ends, Chase Young, Jonathan Cooper. Pretty exciting group there. They were fantastic this year. We found out later also that Chase Young played on 2 sprained ankles. Both of his ankles were dinged up for pretty much the entirety of the season, really the second half of the season, and he still played pretty well. So Chase Young and Jonathan Cooper. And you've got some young guys. Tyreek Smith and Tyler Friday were true freshmen this past year. They played really well. So you got to think they're going to get some time. And we'll see if Zach Harrison, 5-star defensive end prospect, one of the best recruits to ever commit to Ohio State from Columbus, see if he gets some time. I know Mick Marotti wants to get him in the weight room, get him bulked up a little bit. Larry Johnson work on some technique. But I've got to think we're going to see a little bit of Mr. Harrison next year. And then the defensive tackles. You know, we're losing Draymond Jones. That hurts. As Sean G says, Draymond Jones is coming back, right? No, he is not. He is declared for the draft. And I think he's going to test out of this world at the Combine. I've seen a lot of mock drafts with him in the first round. Near the end of the first round, teams like the Rams or the Saints really in that last kind of 5 or 6 spots. And we'll see if Draymond Jones can test well and move himself into that first round because he has the skill set. He was outstanding this year at getting to the quarterback, pressuring the quarterback from that interior. And that's something that the NFL is moving towards. You know, everybody wants these edge rushers, these pass rushers on the outside. Well, the reason why the Rams defense is so good, at least the defensive line, I should say, is that they have some pretty solid pass rushers, but they've got a guy named Aaron Donald on the inside, who's the best player in football. And Draymond Jones isn't a great comparison to Aaron Donald, but they do a lot of the same things on a smaller level. Draymond Jones can rush the passer. He's a very, very good interior pass rusher. And that's huge. I mean, everybody wants these outside edge rushers. Well, what's that do? That makes the quarterback step up. But if you got a guy coming right through the middle like Draymond Jones, that's going to be incredibly, incredibly valuable to a team. So hopefully Draymond will move up and see another first round D lineman go for Larry Johnson. That'd be exciting. But his replacements, I mean, Robert Lander's still going to be there. Devon Hamilton played really well. The both of them played well this year. Tommy Togiai. But replacing that 3 technique is going to be the challenge. You got a guy like Haskell Garrett, who's been here a few years. Teron Vincent was the number 1 defensive tackle recruit last year. Played a little bit as a true freshman this past year. And then you've got a guy like Antoine Jackson Jr. to provide some depth there. He was really good. So we will see how he does as well. Looking at the comments section here. Amber Decker, is it fall yet? I miss my Buckeye football. Ain't that the truth? Ron Morrison, linebacker is where we need the most improvement. That is very accurate. My guy, Alan Russell, in the comments section. Appreciate you. Sean G says 5-star wide receiver. Joe Darn, Garrett Wilson is the name. I think we'll see a good bit of him, especially losing 3 receivers to the draft. We got some young guys coming into play on the outside of that offense. But going back to the comment regarding the front 7, that's pretty much the D line. Linebackers, as everybody says, Ron Morrison is, kind of worried about the linebackers. And yeah, as Tim Goebel asked, what about the front 7? The linebackers are going to be tough. It's going to be interesting because Bill Davis is gone. Thank goodness Bill Davis is gone. I mean, nice guy, that's fantastic. But, if you can't really recruit all that well and you certainly can't develop, I mean, our linebackers were the weakest link of our defense for the past 2 seasons. And that's just not the standard at Ohio State. The Silver Bullets are not. I mean, we haven't seen the Silver Bullets in a few years, maybe since the 2014 season. I mean, Luke Fickell leaves. That's going to be kind of an issue there. Tough shoes to fill, and Urban Meyer fills those shoes with his best man who coached linebackers in the NFL for 25 years. That's fantastic. But if you look at his coaching tree or his coaching resume, he's only been at the same place for 2 or 3 years. I mean, he's never really been promoted, never stayed in the same spot. And there's a reason for that. The linebackers, pretty much everybody's back. Malik Harrison did announce he's returning, which is huge. That is fantastic. He could be the best linebacker in football next year. Malik Harrison is a physical freak, and he really came on at the end of the season, especially against the Wolverines. I just rewatched that game the other night, and he just popped off the tape to me. Malik Harrison will be an NFL pick next year, probably very early, I'd have to say. Now, does Tuff Borland get his job back in the middle? What about Pete Werner on the outside? I like Pete Werner. Not a big fan of Tuff Borland. Looks like my guy Corey Boyd jumped in the comment section here. Appreciate y'all. He's commenting at the Everything Buckeye Nation page, it looks like. Appreciate you guys. Kyle Barr, hello. Amber, hello. Appreciate everybody joining in. David agrees with Malik Harrison. He's going to be a superstar. Tuff Borland, I mean, we'll see what Al Washington does. I'm excited to have Al Washington in, join the program. But we'll see. I mean, Tuff Borland, and maybe he just wasn't healthy. Maybe he wasn't all the way healthy this year. But he was slow. And we got picked on all year, and we couldn't make the adjustment, which I don't know if that's Bill Davis. I don't know if that's Greg Schiano, but guess what? They're both gone. Thank goodness. So we'll have to see. I mean, a guy like Baron Browning, freak athlete. He was the number 1 linebacker coming out of school 2 years ago in the 2017 class. Got to think he should be getting some playing time, right? Hell, Keandre Jones just transferred. He hasn't transferred yet. He's in the transfer portal. Hopefully we can talk him into staying. I'd be surprised, but that'd be great. He's a very, very athletic linebacker with a ton of upside. And he's probably looking at guys like Tuff Borland playing in front of him like, what the hell? I'm out of here. Middle linebacker, you've got Baron Browning, maybe Taraja Mitchell. He was the number 1 inside linebacker coming out of school in 18. He played a lot on special teams this year. If you ever noticed a guy, he wore number 7, I believe. You ever noticed a guy just tearing down the field and running somebody over? Happened a lot I think he got a couple of flags too this year on kickoffs. But Taraja Mitchell, the future of the inside of the defense. On the outside, maybe Pete Werner gets some play. Maybe Dallas Gant, 4-star kid, long, athletic. Another one of these athletic linebackers. He's fast. 6'3", I believe, out of Toledo, St. John Jesuit. Had a buddy in college that went to that school. We'll see. I mean, I'm tired of the slow linebackers, and I can't imagine that's going to be the case, especially with Al Washington. My guy Jason says, Tough was only good at run defense. That is it. Great point. Kid's a solid run stopper. Corey and I have said plenty of times, if this was 1999, he'd be an All-American middle linebacker. But teams aren't running the I formation in college football anymore. It's all spread out, and you got to be fast. You got to cover tailbacks out of the backfield and tight ends. And these tight ends and tailbacks are faster than hell. Tough Borland can't catch up to that, even with two good Achilles. Amber says this year is going to be a trial run. Let me see here. Trial run with all the new adjustments, but I'm excited to see what we can do. It is exciting. I mean, it's kind of strange not really knowing what to expect going into the upcoming season. Jeremy says, shake my head. Tough played his heart out with that injury, bro. That's fantastic. Man, you know what? I like the kid. He's got a great name, and he does. He plays his heart out. But at the same time, if a kid behind him gives us a better chance to win, sorry, Tough, sit down. And it's not fun to say that, but this isn't a friendly business. College football is all about winning. And you see it all the time. I mean, hell, Clemson benched their senior quarterback, Kelly Bryant, for a true freshman because he gave him a better chance to win. And don't kill me, don't crucify me, but I bet if Urban Meyer benched J.T. Barrett for Dwayne Haskins in 2017 after Haskins won the game in Ann Arbor and J.T. Barrett had surgery on his knee and could barely hobble around there and play, but he still played in the Big Ten title game, I bet we win that game by more than 6 points. I bet Dwayne Haskins puts on a show, and I bet we beat the piss out of undefeated number 4 Wisconsin, and I bet you we could have slid into the playoffs instead of Alabama. But J.T. Barrett's a great leader. He's been there for Urban Meyer for years. How could you do that to a guy who's given so much to the program? And it's a tough call. It sure is, but play the better kid, no matter what he's done. And it's tough, but it is what it is. Corey Boyd says he will be back next week. Miss you guys. We miss you, Corey. Corey, G's not even here. Did you know that? I don't know if I talked to you about that. G's at home running this show too. Our guy Clyde says, what do you predict our record will be? Well, that's a fun one. Let me pull up the schedule here because it's a pretty light schedule. From what I understand, our best non-conference game is against Cincinnati. And I'm a Bearcats fan. So, but when that's your biggest non-conference, the biggest non-conference game, that's kind of weak, right? Wouldn't you want a Power 5 opponent at least? TCU, we schedule all these out, and this is not, it's just for this year because we start home and homes. We start in 2020, we're at Oregon in the non-conference, and then we host them the following year. 2022, let me see, we've got Notre Dame to open the season. 2023, at Notre Dame. I think we got Texas in here somewhere. We're at Washington in 2024. Point is, those are big names. Those are big-time names. This upcoming season, Cincinnati's the biggest one. And I love the Bearcats, and I love Luke Fickell. I rooted like hell for them this year. It's my alma mater. Go Bearcats. But not on Saturday, September 7th. Just looking at the schedule here, we open the season with Florida Atlantic. That'd be kind of interesting. Lane Kiffin coming to town. First game. Kyle Barr says, yeah, it's very light. So let's go through this together, folks. We host Florida Atlantic on Saturday, August 31st. That is my wife's birthday. Happy birthday in advance, Laura. I hope you're watching. Florida Atlantic kicks off the season. Got to be a W. Then we host Cincinnati the following week. That's going to be it should be a W. Following week at Indiana could, give us, Indiana always seems to give us a little bit of trouble, but we always pull away in the end. We'll ride with that this time. 3-0. Then we host in the final non-conference game of the season, the Miami Redhawks are in town, 4-0. Now here is where the interesting stretch starts. So we're 4-0. I think we can pretty much take that to the bank. Saturday, September 28th, at the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Nebraska gave us a tough go for it this year. Scott Frost in his first year with a true freshman, Taylor Martinez. And I tell you what, that kid is going to be a ball player. Nebraska is going to be damn good in a couple years, and they might be damn good next year. At Nebraska, kind of a tough call. I mean, theoretically, we'd beat the piss out of them, as we have 2 out of the last 3 years. But not so fast. Might want to circle that one. The following week, we host Michigan State. Never an easy game. Then we got a bye week, so that's good. Bye week, we should be 6-0 going into our first bye week. By the way, we got 2 bye weeks next year, which is going to suck. 6-0. Friday, October 18th, my anniversary. Fantastic. At Northwestern on a Friday night. You know they're not cutting the grass from now until then. It's going to be 2 feet high. Everybody's way slower when you play at Northwestern. It's just an ugly game. And I've been to Ryan Field. Fun place to go and watch a game. I went with my buddy Joe a few years back, and a great atmosphere. It's going to be tough. Friday night, a little bit of strange voodoo there maybe. Should be a win, right? 7-0. Following week, we host Wisconsin. I mean, that's a tough 4-game stretch, folks. At Nebraska, host Michigan State. At Northwestern, host Wisconsin. That's kind of a tough stretch. The good news is, after we host Wisconsin, should beat them. Why not? 8-0. Then we got a bye week. First week in November, bye week. 8-0. All right? We feeling good about that? Then we've got 2 games that should be tune-ups. We host Maryland on Saturday, November 9th, and then we're at Rutgers on Saturday, the 16th. 10-0, right? Everybody agree with that? I hope so. Now is where it gets interesting, because we've got a 10-0 Buckeye team in this scenario. The final 2 games of the season. Are you ready for this? Now, this is chicken shit Saturday, by the way, folks. So when on this day, Alabama's going to be playing the Citadel, Auburn's going to be playing Liberty, and Florida's going to be playing the Little Sisters of the Poor. Ohio State gets Penn State, because that's what power conferences do. You don't schedule some slack Division II team, beat the living crap out of them the penultimate week of the season before your rivalry game. You just don't do it. Ohio State, Penn State, Saturday, November 23rd. Whew, mark your calendars. And then that's it, right? Oh, wait, the very next week, Ryan Day makes his first trip to Ann Arbor. Buckeyes could be 11-0, could be 10-1. Likely going into Ann Arbor for a spot in the Big Ten championship game on the line. Saturday, November 30th in Ann Arbor. All in all, pretty reasonable schedule, I think. I think everybody can almost expect to be 10-0 or 9-1 going into Penn State and the Wolverines. But, I mean, what do you think, folks? Let me know in the comments section. Pretty reasonable schedule, but at the same time, kind of some tough stretches in there. So we will see. Looking at a few comments on Facebook here. Kyle Barr says, if I'm not mistaken, TCU was supposed to be home and home. TCU switched it to a neutral site in Dallas. I think that's because they backed out. And he said, I am going to that Nebraska game. Kyle, cheer loud for us, brother. And it'll be an interesting one with Scott Frost and everybody figuring it out. So we'll see. And Kyle is correct. TCU backed out of that home and home. So maybe we won't get the home and homes with Oregon. I'd love to get those at Oregon, host Oregon. Mario Cristobal is doing a hell of a job out there in Eugene. Would love to see that. And then the following 2 years, home and home with Notre Dame. You kidding me? Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. We got some exciting games coming up. Cal says, I like your analysis. Appreciate that. Amber says, we'll own that team up north like we always do. Love to see that. Oh, Kyle, man, I'm not even going to read that. I am not even going to read that. You guys can read that at home. No thanks. Too much on the line there. Producer G, how are we doing on YouTube? Anything over there? I'm unable to check as well. I don't know if you can hear me or if you are around. Jason Daniels says, do you think with that light schedule that could play into not making the playoffs? What are your thoughts? Absolutely. Absolutely could. We've seen over the past couple of years teams not get in because they have kind of a weak schedule. Of course, sometimes not. Alabama had a really weak schedule 2 years ago, didn't win their conference championship game, didn't even win their division in their conference, didn't even go to the championship game. They still squeaked into the playoffs because Urban Meyer played J.T. Barrett over Dwayne Haskins, and we didn't beat Wisconsin by more than we should have. They get into the playoffs, end up winning it all as a 4 seed. Go figure. But I didn't think they did what they needed to do to get there, but they did. They went 11-1 in the regular season. They lost to Auburn. Boy, what a shit year for Auburn. Auburn beat both Alabama and Georgia in their regular season, and Alabama played Georgia in the national title game. They're sitting there going, what the hell? Of course, they lost to UCF, so who cares? But if they don't, I mean, pretty much with that light schedule, the Buckeyes got to go undefeated. They got to go 12-0. Unless they lose to, and it can't be late. You know, it can't be, you can't be 10-0 and lose to Penn State because there's this Big Ten bias out there. And I hate to say that, but there is a little bit. And I don't buy into all of that. Well, the Big Ten hasn't had a team in 3 years, blah, blah, this. The SEC gets those favorable nods. Alabama loses the last game of their season, and they're rewarded with the playoffs because the one team that should have taken care of business in the SEC title game didn't. And they get rewarded. Ohio State does that? I'm not so sure that's the case. And maybe that's different now that Urban Meyer's no longer here, which is a topic for another time, that the media doesn't like Urban Meyer, especially with all this crap that came out about Zach Smith, how Urban Meyer's not a private investigator, apparently. That makes him a bad guy. But if we're 10-0 going into Penn State and at the Wolverines, and we lose one of those games, that's going to be tough. If we lose a game early, like at Nebraska, if Nebraska's good. Now, we lost at Purdue. That was the only thing that kept us out of the playoffs this year because we got destroyed by a shit Purdue team, 49-20. They had those all that bad juju, black uniforms, night game. Kid with cancer, going to one of the only game he could go to because he wanted to see Purdue beat Ohio State. As soon as they showed that kid, God rest his soul, Tyler Trent, I knew it was over. It just wasn't going to happen. It's Purdue's night. And sure enough, I mean, they beat the hell out of us. They beat us by 29. And if Ohio State didn't get boat raced by the Boilermakers, they're probably playing in the playoffs. Maybe it's a different story. I think Alabama and Clemson were clearly the two best teams this year, but you never know. You give an Urban Meyer team a shot, you think they would, who knows, step up to the plate a little bit. But with that light schedule, like Jason said, if you don't win all your games, there's going to be a lot of talk about, well, they didn't play anybody. Big Ten's having a down year. And a lot of it could depend on who we play in the Big Ten title game. If we get there, could be Wisconsin. Could be Northwestern again. Maybe it's Nebraska. Maybe they have a hell of a year. Maybe our one loss is at Nebraska, and then we get to play them in a rematch in the Big Ten title game, wipe the floor with them. It'll be interesting. Be interesting to see. Let me get to some of the comments here. John Donnelly, Buckeyes took a page with Bama with the schedule. Maybe when we win a national championship game. That's very possible. I mean, Bama seems to not have to worry about their schedule and get the benefit of the doubt. It's the eye test, they say. That's great. Jeremy Moreland, what will happen if the quarterback is not eligible? If Justin Fields is not eligible, that would be a shock. I think all signs are pointing to him being eligible, but say he's not. Next man up, Matthew Baldwin, the 6'3" redshirt freshman. Dude is, it's funny, you kind of compare him to Dwayne Haskins a little bit because he's a big kid, strong arm, very accurate, not extremely mobile, but can get around. Matthew Baldwin was a hand-picked recruit from Ryan Day. It was in the 2018 cycle where we had Emory Jones committed for forever, and he flipped to Florida. And we kind of didn't know where to go. Ryan Day likes this 3-star kid that he went down to Texas, Lake Travis. Was looking at Matthew Baldwin, saw Garrett Wilson, said, hey, 5-star receiver, why don't you come play for us? Garrett Wilson's going to play a lot, and he's going to play next year as a true freshman. That's what I'm excited. Maybe this Ryan Day movement, maybe he'll take a page out of this Dabo Swinney. Did you notice watching the national title game how many true freshmen were making plays for Clemson? Last year in the title game, the year before, how many true freshmen were making plays for Alabama? Play the kids, man. If they're equal to a guy older than him, you hear that, you play the older guy for their experience. Well, why don't you play the young guy because he's got room to grow? That's my philosophy. Play these young kids, man. And if Garrett Wilson is a true freshman and he's out there on the edge and he's performing better than Ben Victor, put his ass out there. Sit down, Ben Victor. You should have done something and caught that pass on a third down in the game. Chris Mortimer says, we won't make the playoffs. Schedule is too weak, plus we aren't Bama. That's only if we don't go undefeated, but you might be right, Chris. Travis says, Travis Thomas, what's going on with the running backs? We lose Brian Snead. He's off the team. Mike Weber goes pro. We got J.K. Dobbins. Who's going to back him up? Master Teague got some action early on in the season. I love Master Teague. Dude is a freight train back there, dude. Holy smokes. This kid is ridiculously big. I wish I had a picture I could put up on the screen. But Master Teague, man, his biceps are bigger than me. I mean, he's a freak. Maybe Demario McCall gets some touches, maybe on third down. He'd be a good third down back. Then you got true freshman Marcus Crowley and Steele Chambers coming in. Randy Russell says, I know you probably answered this, but where is Corey? Kyle Barr stepping in for me. He does have a migraine. He was in the comments section a little bit earlier, but we'll be back next week. Kyle Barr says, we always seem to lose a road game to a West team, so Nebraska wouldn't surprise me. Randy, as long as we go undefeated, schedule won't matter. Hopefully no shit shows this year. Ain't that the truth? Jeremy, appreciate you watching. Be a good time to remind you guys, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, we really appreciate it if you went over to our YouTube page, Everything Buckeye Nation. Give us that subscribe. More subscriptions we have. We're trying to get to that 1,000 marker, bring everybody more stuff more often rather than just once a night, or once a week, I should say. Eventually move towards once a night. We can do something like this once a night, and that's the goal, especially before we run out of our investor money. So keep that in mind. Please go over to YouTube, hit that subscribe for us on Everything Buckeye Nation. And if you do miss the show, haven't seen it all, you can always go back and watch it afterwards. We're everything, pretty much all your streaming platforms, iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud. We're live on Facebook and YouTube. So give us a shout. Chris says, is Master Teague related to Akis Teague? That I don't know. I know Master Teague is Master Teague the Third. So that's pretty cool. I like that. And what a name, too. Our tailback situation is pretty sweet with the names. We've got Master Teague the Third, true freshman Steele Chambers. Are you kidding me? Dude sounds like a Bond villain. I think Producer G is around town. Can you hear me, G? Perhaps not. But Well, we got a little bit of time, folks, here. You guys want to keep talking about Ohio State football? Why don't I bring this up? I wanted to get to this. We got a new commitment this week for the 2020 class. Offensive lineman Jacob James from Cincinnati Elder is committed to Ohio State. Kid's 6'5", 275, likely to play tackle at the next level. He's just a 3-star, but he's got 20 D1 offers, including the Wolverines and Penn State. So likely with his season, and anytime you get a team like Ohio State or Alabama or Clemson and a lower rated player commits to them, generally gets a bump in the ratings because the recruiting services are like, well, clearly these guys know what they're talking about. So we'll see. Jacob James, 6'5", 275, like I said, out of Elder. The 2020 class is now third in the country and first in the Big Ten. We've got 3 offensive linemen, which is huge. Signing day is coming up in the next few weeks for the 2019 class. Not going to be a fantastic class numbers-wise, but the average player, if you look at the average signee, it's third in the country behind Alabama and Georgia. So maybe not so much quantity, but certainly quality is there in the 2019 class. Trying to add a couple offensive linemen here before everything wraps up in the next few weeks for the 19 class, because we are low on offensive linemen. Our depth is not looking pretty. So good to see us get a commit from offensive linemen for next year's class 2020 with 7 commits, 3 of which are on the offensive line. Actually, all the commits are on the offensive side of the ball, which is interesting. We've got 3 offensive linemen, 5-star offensive tackle Paris Johnson. He's from St. X in Cincinnati. 4-star offensive guard might play center, Luke Whippler. He's out of New Jersey, I believe. And then Jacob James, 3-star offensive tackle, likely to be bumped for the 4-star here soon. 3 offensive linemen, 2 wide receivers. We've got G. Scott Jr. That's G-E-E. G. Scott Jr., 6'3", 211. And Jackson Smith-Njigba, who is 5'11" and 190. Then you got to have your quarterback right. 4-star quarterback Jack Miller out of Arizona, 6'4", 210. Ryan Day, special. Line him up as the starter. It'll be interesting to see because 2019 season, your boy Justin Fields is going to be the starter. 2020 season, your boy Justin Fields is going to be the starter. After that, maybe Matthew Baldwin gets a year. Maybe it's Jack Miller's time. Maybe it's Miller time. Could be. And the other commit is 4-star tailback Darvon Hubbard, 6 foot, 200-pound Ohio native, actually, running back, and plays with Jack Miller in Arizona. Cool story there. Amber Decker says, just wait until we win games under Ryan Day. Then the recruits will be lining up. Kyle Barr says, glad you can pronounce that name. I am assuming he's talking about Jackson Smith-Njigba. I'm going with the David Njoku route on that one, so we'll see. I hope I'm right. Alan Russell says Jack Miller is fire. Look up this kid, folks. He is exciting. You know, if you're into looking up highlights for a quarterback that's going into his junior year of high school, but hey, he's excited about Ryan Day. I am too. Pretty excited. What's up, G? You back there? See you messing around on the control board. Let me talk a little bit about Ohio State basketball here before we wrap some things up. Anybody been watching Ohio State hoops? Let me know in the comment section. It has been a rough go of late, but some positive momentum moving forward. The Buckeyes are 13-6 on the season, just 3-5 in the Big Ten. But we snapped a 5-game losing streak on Saturday with a big win on the road at Nebraska. Huge win, really just to stop the bleeding. We had been on a 5-game losing streak, the worst since the 97-98 season, I believe. And, I mean, it's been 21 years. Kyle Barr says it's been awful to watch. It really has been brutal. But Alan Russell, yes, sir, we got that W over Nebraska. Good. I'm glad to see that. Glad to see other people are watching, too. It's been tough. It really has been tough. Gee, I got you. I will. But the Buckeyes snapped a 5-game losing streak with a 70-60 win. at Nebraska on Saturday. And that was huge, man. It's huge for the confidence. I mean, losing 5 games in a row is just killer. So to see that, get a W, stop the bleeding, that is good stuff. And finally, somebody other than Caleb Wesson stepped up, and Caleb hadn't even really been playing that well. Honestly, he's been pissing me off. And he's our best player, and that's frustrating. But his fouls and decision-making are just so frustrating just to watch. I mean, oh my gosh. It has just been killer. Allen Russell. Caleb's got to stay out of foul trouble, man. Clyde Boyd. Yeah, it's been tough, though. He's been watching, but it's been tough. I'm with you, man. Randy says, yep, always watch him every year. Luther is a beast. They let him go on offense. CJ Jackson is awful. Turns the ball over way too much. Holy cow. CJ Jackson, man. Hold on to the ball. Anybody watch the Nebraska game? There were 2 times CJ Jackson drove to the hoop, had a good lane, could have went up, probably got fouled, instead stops underneath at the block and stops and is trying to turn around. Turns the ball over. Just go hard to the hole, man. Oh my gosh, so frustrating. But a guy like Luther Muhammad is a godsend for this basketball team because he's fired up, man. This kid just gets so excited. I know in the first game of the season at the Cincinnati Bearcats, he got a technical for talking some smack into some kid's face after hitting a 3. I love it. You know, I don't want to see that in the NCAA tournament, but he is one of the most fiery players we have, probably the most fiery, he and Kyle Young. And with Kyle Young out for a few weeks, I don't know if you guys saw this. Kyle Young out for a few weeks, several weeks actually, Chris Holtman said, with a stress fracture in his foot. Kyle Young's like the biggest energy guy we had. Grabbed a lot of rebounds, got tough buckets down low. Guy like Luther Muhammad is exactly what we need. The true freshman finished with a career-high 24 points, 6 rebounds, 3 steals. 24 points for the true freshman. Had a couple of dagger threes. I mean, I thought one was a dagger, and then he hits another dagger a couple minutes later. It was fantastic. Andre Wesson, C.J. Jackson had 10 points apiece. Caleb had 7 points, 11 boards. We were tougher. We were the tougher team, which is something we haven't seen in a while. Won the rebounding battle, 31-24 on the defensive boards, and 14-7 on the offensive boards. You get 14 extra possessions in a game, normally a good sign. Something kind of interesting, we only had 8 assists on our 24 made field goals. So, you know, we'll see if that continues. I mean, if guys are going to have to make shots. So we'll just see. Alan Russell said, did you see who just joined as a walk-on today? Jake, he's from Lebanon. Yeah, I saw he's right around my wife's hometown. A walk-on. I think he's 6'6". Can't remember his name. It's kind of funny, though. He also sounds like a Bond villain from what I said about Steel Chambers earlier. Let me see his Harrison Hookfin. Harrison Hookfin. Need some depth. We'll take it. We'll take it. Clinton Master says the smaller lineup has worked well. We just don't use it enough. I noticed us putting Andre Wesson at the post a little bit against Nebraska, and that seemed to be working well. So that was exciting. And Russell says, Alan Russell, is he clear to play right away? Randy Russell, Alan Russell and Randy Russell, you guys know each other? You guys related? I don't know. But big win for the Buckeyes on Saturday. It's going to be a tough stretch with Kyle Young out for several weeks, as Holtman says. But we need somebody to step up. Can't just be Caleb, and he hasn't been that great lately with foul trouble. Missing a couple bunnies. He's good for missing at least a couple a game. Poor decision-making, poor fouls. Very frustrating. But who's going to step up? Is it going to be Luther Muhammad again? I'd be all right with that. Dwayne Washington's been in a shooting slump, but I don't care if that kid shoots 20 times a game. I love Dwayne Washington. So we'll have to see who steps up. But the big one is tomorrow night, folks, at the number 5 Wolverines. 9 o'clock on ESPN2. The Wolverines are 19-1 on the season, folks. 8-1 in the Big Ten. Their only loss was to Wisconsin. Last week? What was it? The 19th I have here, so about 10 days ago. They've got some good players. Freshman forward Ignas Brazdeikis leads the team with 15.2 points per game and 5.6 rebounds. He's Lithuanian, grew up in Canada, and his teammates call him Iggy. Kid's a good ball player. Senior guard Charles Matthews averages 13 and 5, and sophomore guard Jordan Poole averages 12.6 per game and shoots the three ball very well, 42% from three-point range. So it's going to be a very tough game in Ann Arbor, but we'll have to see. I mean, I'm very glad we stopped the bleeding at Nebraska on Saturday. If we're running into Wolverines tomorrow with 6 straight losses, whew, I tell you what, that would suck. However, I feel so much better now. It just gives you that little bit of confidence. Anytime you win a game on the road in the Big Ten, it's going to give you confidence. And hopefully that's what it did for the boys on Saturday. Alan Russell says, don't look now, but I think Caleb Wesson just picked up another foul. That is fantastic. You probably did. And Raymond Hansel says, any news on Jonah Jackson? We'll wrap up the show with this. Jonah Jackson is a potential Ohio State addition on the offensive line. Now, don't jump all over me here. He's a grad transfer from Rutgers. However, the kid is a team. He's a team player, team leader. He's been a 2-year starter at Rutgers, and team captain this past year. The kid can play right away, and we need offensive line depth desperately. Just looking at the offensive line, we're losing 4 starters from this year. And whether you like them or not, with Isaiah Prince, Demetrius Knox, Michael Jordan. I mean, I like Michael Jordan a whole lot. Tough to see him go. But regardless, replacing 4 starters is going to be difficult no matter who it is. So Jonah Jackson is he's visiting Ohio State this week. He's got a scholarship offer for it. We've offered him a scholarship. So we'll see. I mean, I'd be ready to welcome him with open arms if he wants to commit to the Buckeyes. You can never turn down a good leader, especially an experienced guy on the offensive line. So, I mean, I never thought I'd say I want a player from Rutgers, but here we are when it comes to the offensive line. Alan Russell says, I hope we keep it close with the Wolverines tomorrow night. That's what's on tap for your Buckeyes. We've got the Wolverine at the Chrysler Center tomorrow night. It's going to be a tough one. 9 o'clock. Not looking good for the Buckeyes. I don't know how many points they're favored by, but I just hope we put up a fight, man. I hope we do. Chris Holtman's team normally do. So we'll see. That's going to do it for the show tonight, everybody. Appreciate you so much for helping me run the show here in the comment section. Clyde says, I will not miss Isaiah Prince. Throws up the deuces. Can't blame you there. But that's going to do it for us tonight. We'll be back next week, Monday night, 7 to 8, with Corey Boyd, with Producer G. I'm Jake Smith signing off saying go Bucks and OH. We'll see you next week, folks. Appreciate you guys.